Hasn't the evolution of scientific thought made our need for God obsolete?
This is a question I love to speak to, and I'll try and do it really quickly so we can get to another one. But it's a great question to speak to because that is the assumption in our culture, and actually I think the truth could not be more different. You look at perhaps the two most significant scientific discoveries of the last 100 years, and they both point strongly to the existence of God. So first, that the universe has a beginning. And if it had a beginning, then what's the cause of that beginning? How did we go from there not being a universe at one point to there being a universe at another point? And what would the cause of that have to be like? Well, for it to be the cause of the universe, it would have to be outside of space and time, because it would have created space and time. And for it to be the cause of all of this, it would have to be highly intelligent, highly powerful, highly creative. And so we're pointed towards the existence of something which is highly powerful, highly intelligent, highly creative, and outside of space and time. And that sounds like someone I know. I go back to the beginning of the Bible. In the beginning, the first words, God created the heavens and the earth. And then the second major scientific discovery of the last 35, 40 years, the fine-tuning of the universe. Scientists, not just Christian scientists, but scientists in general, are telling us that the details of the universe needed to be so finely tuned on a razor's edge for life to be possible. Not just our form of life, not just here on the planet Earth, but any form of life anywhere in the universe. One Cambridge astronomer likens it to getting all the parameters right to a tornado blowing through a junkyard and just happening to produce a perfect Boeing 747 airplane. An Oxford physicist, he says that the difference you could have while still getting life is less than 1 part in 10 raised to 10, raised in turn again to 123. And if I were to try to print out that percentage for you, I couldn't do it, because if I turned all the matter in the universe into paper, I would still have far too little paper to give you that percentage. Those are the sorts of odds that we're talking about if this universe is created just by chance, just by scientific randomness. But what if it's the case that there's an intelligence behind the universe? Then we have an explanation for that. Amazingly, I saw an interview recently where Richard Dawkins said it's an interesting hypothesis, the idea of life on Earth being seeded here by intelligent life from somewhere else in the universe. And I thought to myself, that's amazing. Richard Dawkins is actually not against intelligent design. He just has a specific bias against divine design. So these are perhaps the two most significant scientific discoveries of the last 100 years, and both of them point very strongly not against the existence of God, but to the existence of God. And finally, the regularity of the universe. Why is it the case that when we wake up tomorrow, we just expect that things are going to carry on in a regular, stable way? There are an infinite number of different strengths that gravity could take tomorrow. You might say, well, it's always been this way in the past. But that's not an answer. That's the question. Why has it always been that way? And why should we assume it's going to continue to operate with regularity in the future? I actually think that God is the only answer to that question. I don't think there's any reason other than God to think that you would have this sort of regularity, stability to the universe that actually undergirds the entire scientific enterprise. So completely to the contrary of thinking that science disproves God, I've actually come to think that only God proves science.
Amazing.